right, well, we are here on voting day here in the Granite State, and as you know, we're getting reports of very, very heavy voting in some areas that normally don't see it. It's too early to tell. You often hear those types of reports, but a man who has a lot on the line joining us right now, the good doctor, Dr. Ben Carson. His wife is here this outside. I always said that she should be here, maybe not you. Anyway, good to see you.
Okay,
How
you
are
too,
you?
Dale.
How you holding up?
I'm doing fine. This is not a problem. Remember, I'm a person who for 36 years worked 12 to 16-hour days with a lot of stress.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way, and you think it's easy reading a prompter for 12 to 16. All right, so you were doing surgery, maybe a little different. But what about this? I mean, you know, every one of you guys have worked so hard. You traverse all across the state, multiple events. You're no different. But only a few of you, we're told, are going to come out of this state with the wherewithal to go on. Do you think you'll be one of those few?
Well, I will have the wherewithal to go on.
Yeah,
no question about that.
Isn't it? You got a lot of money.
But, you know, the more important thing is not the money, it's the support. You know, we have more than 5 million Facebook likes, and we have people who are donating, and that's what's keeping us going.
But it's more than that. I mean, you're right, the rabid support is there. But what's interesting in your case, you have a lot of cash on hand, your campaign does. You came off a record-setting December, more than any of your opponents. Pretty good January, so the win financially is at your back. If you don't have a good performance here, Doctor, do you think it still will be?
I do believe so, absolutely. You know, there are a lot of people, and recognize that when you start getting out to some of the core states where people have, you know, really traditional values, it's going to begin to show. So you got to hang in.
Are you saying that's not the case here in New Hampshire?
I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying there are some places where, you know, my kind of message resonates more than it does in other places.
Okay, so regardless of how you perform here today, Doctor, you're saying I'm in it and in it presumably for the long haul.
Absolutely, because, you know, recognize, unlike politicians, I'm not here because I wanted to do this. I'm here because hundreds of thousands of my fellow Americans implored me to do this.
Do you ever regret it? I mean, I don't mean to be dismissive, but it is grueling. There are a lot of stops. It was very cold last night. You're crisscrossing in a blizzard.
Well, would it have been a lot easier to continue, you know, speaking, sitting on corporate boards, relaxing at home in Florida, and enjoying life?
In your man cave?
Yeah, that would have been a lot easier. But, you know, what if the people who preceded us had that attitude? What if they had not been willing to make sacrifices? Where would we be today?
No, it's a good point, but it does get back to this issue of performing, getting the numbers, and donors, and whether they get tired if you don't get the numbers. It's a chicken and egg argument. What do you think?
It is, but I think as time goes on and people have an opportunity to get to know us, they will recognize that what they really want, they have sitting right in front of them. And what they have been trying to get away from has just been, in many cases, covered with a different flavor.
Yeah. You know, you've talked about before the confusion at the ABC News debate when they were calling people out. But were you surprised to see, and my producer and I were talking about it, but that's what the coverage was like on you, the confusion over the,
well, that's what
not what you said during the debate,
right,
but that whole confusion with the introduction.
That's been the coverage of me from the very beginning. Anything that they can find to try to ridicule me, that's what they will do. Will they talk about the substance? Of course not, because you've got to recognize that I represent something that's antithetical to the political establishment.
I know you've addressed this. You didn't hear your name called, right?
No, I didn't hear it. They didn't have speakers in the back. Oh. So if there was a lot of applause going on out front, you wouldn't be able to hear your name.
Notice that didn't happen at the Fox Business debate, which is kind of weird, right?
I got to give you kudos for that.
Yeah, audio. we were right on audio. Stepping back from this race, what did you think of the back and forth at that debate between Chris Christie and Marco Rubio? Some people have said he delivered a blow, that is the New Jersey governor, to Marco Rubio, but that he might have hurt himself in the process for being or appearing too mean. Well,
as you know, I simply don't get into that kind of thing. You know, I was given the opportunity and a very good cause to go after, but you know, I don't believe that does particularly the Republican Party any good. If we savage each other.
You had ample opportunity. You could have made more of the whole Ted Cruz thing in Iowa. That did stick in your craw a while, and you did get an apology from him. You were a little upset, I think, last time we talked, that he hadn't fired anybody.
I was really more upset for the people who, you know, I heard from more of them today.
Yeah.
People who really worked so hard, and to hear from another source that your candidate is dropping out, some of them were just devastated.
Do you think it would have made a big difference? Because you did better than the polls suggested.
I think it would have made a huge difference.
Really?
Our internal polling showed something very different than what happened, and some external polling showed that too. But also, when you demoralize a bunch of the people who are out there to help people change their minds, that has an effect also.
Yeah.
You know, it's a cascading effect. So it was devastating. But, you know, the right thing will happen in the long run. My job is to do what is right.
Finally, Doctor, I mean, I know when there was a campaign shakeup, and you and I chatted about this before, many urged you, get more in your face, be more argumentative. You'll always get that response time in a debate if you get argumentative, and then the other person has to respond to your attacks. They mention you in the attacks so you can respond to them. You know the game. You refuse to do that. Any regrets?
No. I am who I am, and I think the people are smart enough to see through all of this. Many of them are. And I believe that we will get the leadership that we deserve, whatever that is.
Even if it's not the leadership you think is good for us?
It will be whatever we deserve, that's what we're going to get.
One cynically could hear that and say, well, if you losers vote for these losers, you're losers.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying we will get what we deserve. We get what we deserve.
If Donald Trump wins the whole nomination, what do you think?
Then that is what we will deserve, and hopefully it'll be something good.
Would you be ever open to a VP slot?
I would have to have major philosophical alignment with whoever it was, and I would
Donald Trump.
And I would have to have guarantees that I could do some substantial things.
So with Donald Trump, we might get what we deserve. To your point, he gets it. We deserve it. If that's the case, would you entertain being on a ticket with him? Yes.
I certainly would sit down and discuss it with him.
Who wouldn't you ever entertain it with?
Rather than get into that, let's just say, as long as there is significant philosophical alignment, I wouldn't have any problem. But it's really not what I'm aiming to do. I'm aiming to really change this country in the same way that, you know, I came up with new ways to do very complex things that people have been trying to do for a long, long period of time. That's what I want to do with this country. And I don't necessarily want to be, you know, sitting back waiting for somebody to give me instructions.
Do you ever feel annoyed when they say you don't have the comportment or the readiness for president when actually you've done some of the most incredible medical miracles?
Well, I recognize that, you know, we've been conditioned to think that only politicians can solve our problems. But at some point, maybe we will wake up and recognize that it was politicians who created our problems.
Or we end up getting what we deserve.
Or we get what we deserve. But we should get much better. And if the people will recognize that we, the people, are actually at the pinnacle, we're supposed to be at the apex, and the government is supposed to be there to serve us. Don't accept the status quo. We can return it to the way it was supposed to be.
Dr. Carson, very good seeing you.
All right.
Best of luck. I know you have a busy schedule today.
Thank you.